Every single day, millions of people wake up, step into the world, and without realizing it, enter invisible arenas, strategic arenas, silent negotiations, unspoken competitions, subtle power struggles, social exchanges governed by rules no one openly explains. They do what they were taught is right. Work hard, be agreeable, avoid conflict, cooperate whenever possible. And yet, they keep losing. They get passed over for promotions. They are outmaneuvered in negotiations. They are manipulated in relationships. They are perceived as weak by those who understand the dynamics at play. And the most unsettling part, they don't even know they are playing a game. The constant feeling of being behind, of giving more than you receive, of being good, yet somehow never advancing. That feeling is not random. It is not bad luck. It is not lack of intelligence. It is strategic blindness. The brutal truth is this: most people are participating in social and psychological games without understanding the rules. And when you don't understand the rules, you become a piece, not a player. This insight was not discovered by philosophers or motivational speakers. It was formalized by mathematicians, John von Neumann, John Nash, through what became known as game theory. At first glance, it sounds abstract, mathematical, cold. But game theory is not about numbers. It is about human behavior. It reveals the hidden logic behind how people act when interests collide. From trivial decisions, where to eat with colleagues, to critical moments, salary negotiations, romantic conflicts, career moves. John Nash demonstrated something fundamental with what is now called the Nash equilibrium. In every strategic interaction, there is a point where no participant can improve their outcome by changing their strategy alone. And here is the dividing line between winners and losers. The winners understand the structure of the game. The losers don't even realize there is one. Most people cooperate when they should compete. They compete when they should cooperate. They treat their romantic partner like an opponent. They treat their boss like a friend. They give when they should withhold. They retreat when they should advance. They hesitate when firmness is required. Game theory reveals that not all games are the same. Some are zero-sum. Your gain is my loss. Some are positive-sum. Both sides can win. Some are one-time interactions. Others are repeated games where reputation and memory matter. Each requires a different strategy. But what do most people do? They use the same mindset everywhere. They play chess as if it were football. They assume goodwill in competitive spaces. They assume competition in cooperative ones. And the result? They become predictable, vulnerable, easy to exploit. In this video, we are going to expose the architecture of these hidden games. You will see how decisions that feel emotional or personal often follow precise strategic patterns, and more importantly, you will learn how to shift from being a reactive piece to becoming a conscious strategist, because winning in life is not primarily about luck. It is not about charisma. It is about understanding the game you are in and choosing your moves accordingly. Winning is not about aggression. It is not about dominating everyone in the room. It is about recognizing the game you are in and choosing how to play. Those who understand the structure gain an invisible advantage. Those who don't eventually call their defeats bad luck. But defeat, when repeated, is not coincidence. It is predictable. So ask yourself honestly, how many times have you trusted when you should have protected yourself? How many times have you yielded to avoid tension and paid the price? How many times have you been nice in a situation that required firmness? It's time to stop reacting instinctively and start acting strategically. Because the biggest trap in modern life is not lack of opportunity. It is the illusion that most interactions are purely emotional, spontaneous, or innocent. They are not. They are structured. Game theory, born from mathematics and economics, revealed something unsettling. Human interaction follows patterns. Your friendships, your romantic relationships, your workplace negotiations, your family dynamics, all of them are games, not in a cynical sense, but in a structural one. There are incentives, there are risks, there are payoffs, there are dominant strategies, and whether you like it or not, you are participating. Let's simplify. There are zero-sum games. If I win, you lose. Like a negotiation over limited resources, a salary discussion with a fixed budget, a competitive promotion. Then there are positive-sum games, where cooperation increases value for everyone, like long-term partnerships, strong marriages, team projects. Then there are repeated games, where reputation matters. You will see this person again, and again, and again. And finally, one-off games, a single transaction, a stranger you will never meet again. Each of these requires a completely different mindset, but most people, they use the same emotional approach everywhere. They try to solve competitive games with pure kindness. They attempt cooperative games with suspicion and defensiveness, and that mismatch creates disaster. Imagine treating a one-time salary negotiation like a fragile friendship. You avoid discomfort. You concede too quickly. You don't push back. Result? You settle for less than you deserve. Now imagine the opposite, treating a marriage like a zero-sum battlefield, keeping score, competing for dominance, winning arguments instead of solving problems. Result? Trust erodes. Connection dies. Strategic ignorance is costly. Those who are too cooperative get crushed in competitive arenas. Those who are too competitive destroy cooperative bonds. And in both cases, the outcome feels the same: frustration, stagnation, living below your potential. But once you start identifying the type of game you're in, everything shifts. You stop reacting emotionally. You begin responding strategically. You stop being manipulated by those who understand incentives, and you start choosing your moves deliberately. This is not about becoming cold. It is not about becoming ruthless. It is about becoming aware, because naivete is expensive and clarity is power. Because here is something most people misunderstand. Not every game needs to be won, but every game needs to be understood. Once you see the invisible structure behind your interactions, you can no longer blame fate. Now the real question begins: why do you keep losing? Even though you are intelligent, hardworking, well-intentioned, the mistake may not be in your effort. It may be in your timing, in your positioning, in the type of game you think you are playing. So let's go deeper. Have you ever asked yourself why you are constantly overlooked? Why your ideas are ignored? Why, while you try to be fair, others bend the system and somehow always come out ahead? It is not because you lack ability. It is because you lack strategic adjustment. The brutal truth is simple. Most people cooperate in competitive games and compete in cooperative ones. This inversion destroys them. And it does not happen because they are stupid. It happens because they were conditioned. From childhood, you were taught that being good means being flexible, yielding, avoiding tension, not making waves. But that mindset collapses in a zero-sum game, in a salary negotiation, in a promotion battle, in a limited resource environment. There, your gain depends on your ability to assert. Yet you walk into these arenas as if you are speaking to a friend, afraid to seem demanding, afraid to appear difficult, so you soften your stance, and you walk away with half of what you could have secured. Now look at the opposite extreme. How many times have you treated a potential ally like a rival? How many times has pride destroyed a partnership? How many times have you competed in a situation that required trust? That is aggression misapplied, competing in positive-sum games. And the result is isolation. Trust collapses. Bonds corrode. You become surrounded by silent resentment. Here is the uncomfortable realization. You are not losing because you play badly. You are losing because you are using the right strategy in the wrong game. Robert Axelrod, in The Evolution of Cooperation, demonstrated something extraordinary. Even purely self-interested agents can develop stable cooperation, but only when the structure supports it. When that structure is ignored, when you react impulsively or follow moral reflexes instead of strategic awareness, you become exploitable. And here is the key most people never see. You are not exploited because you are weak. You are exploited because you are predictable. People know you will always yield. They know you avoid confrontation. They know you won't retaliate. And predictability is leverage. Once someone can forecast your move, they control the game. So the first step out of this trap is radical awareness. Not all kindness is virtue. In some games, kindness is naivete. In others, toughness is stupidity. Strategy is knowing which is which. But understanding the structure is only the beginning. True mastery begins when you learn the tactics that match each game type. And one of the most powerful, surprisingly simple, yet mathematically elegant, is this: tit for tat. Imagine that every ongoing relationship you have is not a single interaction, but a repeated game, with multiple rounds, a friend, a romantic partner, a colleague, a family member. Each interaction builds on the previous one, reputation accumulates, trust compounds, or erodes. In repeated games, tit for tat has proven remarkably effective. It follows 3 rules: start cooperative, reciprocate behavior, forgive quickly when cooperation returns. It is neither naive nor aggressive. It is conditional. You begin with trust. If the other person cooperates, you continue cooperating. If they defect, you respond in kind, calmly, proportionally. No overreaction, no revenge spiral, just mirrored consequence. And if they return to cooperation, you do the same. This strategy works because it is clear, it is firm, and it is fair. It rewards cooperation, it punishes exploitation, and it removes unpredictability from your side. You are no longer endlessly nice, but you are not erratic either. You become consistent, and consistency commands respect. But here is where things get even more interesting. Tit for tat works beautifully in repeated games. But what about one-time encounters? What about high-stakes negotiations? What about environments where cooperation is impossible? That is where strategy becomes even more precise. And that is what we will uncover next. In a repeated game, every move echoes. What you do today becomes the template for how you are treated tomorrow. This is exactly the environment Robert Axelrod analyzed in his famous tournaments of the iterated prisoner's dilemma. Economists, mathematicians, political scientists, biologists, all submitted sophisticated strategies, complex algorithms, deep calculations, multi-layered prediction systems, and yet the winner was not the most complicated. It was the simplest. Tit for tat. Its logic is brutally clean. First move, cooperate. Second move, onward, mirror. If the other cooperates, you cooperate. If they defect, you retaliate. If they return to cooperation, you forgive and resume cooperation. No grudges, no endless retaliation, No blind submission, just disciplined reciprocity. Why does this outperform complexity? Because it sends a crystal clear signal. I am willing to cooperate, but I am not exploitable. That signal changes everything. It builds respect immediately. It punishes betrayal instantly. And it rewards cooperation consistently. There is no ambiguity. An ambiguity is what manipulators thrive on. Applied to real life, this is powerful. In relationships, you begin with openness and generosity. But if boundaries are crossed, you respond firmly. Not emotionally, but proportionally. At work, you collaborate freely. But if someone undermines you, you do not pretend nothing happened. You signal consequence. In family dynamics, you honor agreements. But if trust is broken, you make clear that restoration is required. Now pause and ask yourself, how many times have you continued giving after being mistreated? How many times did you rise above while someone continued exploiting you? That is not virtue. That is training others how to treat you. Continuous submission does not inspire admiration. It signals low cost. Tit-for-tat teaches something most people never internalize. Cooperation is a strategy, not an obligation. Reciprocity is the currency of respect. If you cooperate endlessly without consequence, you are not noble. You are predictable. And in repeated games, predictability without enforcement invites exploitation. But here is the crucial nuance. Tit-for-tat is not about escalation. It is about stability. Its purpose is not domination. Its purpose is equilibrium. It creates a system where cooperation is rewarded and betrayal is costly. Over time, this transforms hostile environments into structured ones. But reciprocity alone is not always enough. Sometimes, to gain true leverage, you must do something counterintuitive. You must reduce your own options. Because here is a paradox that reshapes negotiation dynamics. The more flexible you appear, the weaker your position. In many life situations, adaptability is praised. Compromise is admired. Being open is seen as mature. But strategically, excessive flexibility communicates something dangerous. I need this outcome, and need is leverage for the other side. This is why powerful negotiators, leaders, and even nations use what game theory calls commitment devices. A commitment device is a voluntary restriction of your own choices to increase credibility. It is saying, "This is my line, and I cannot move it." When you remove your own escape routes, you signal seriousness. When you eliminate your own alternatives, you create pressure. Think of it this way. If you enter a salary negotiation saying, "I'm flexible, I'm sure we can figure something out," you have already weakened your position. But if you calmly state, "This is the range I require. Below that, I cannot accept," you have limited your options. And paradoxically, that limitation strengthens you, because the other side now understands your strategy is not negotiable. In game theory terms, credible commitment changes the payoff structure. It forces the other player to adjust. This is why companies set non-negotiable policies, why contracts exist, why deadlines matter, why walking away is sometimes the most powerful move. When you show that you are willing to leave the table, your leverage increases dramatically, because now the cost of losing you becomes real. And this applies far beyond business. In relationships, when you say, "If this continues, I will step away," and you mean it, you shift the dynamic. In friendships, when you stop overextending and calmly withdraw from one-sided dynamics, you alter the equilibrium. In personal goals, when you publicly commit to a deadline or invest money up front, you bind yourself to action. That is a commitment device. You remove the comfort of retreat. And when retreat is gone, seriousness emerges. This may feel counterintuitive. We think power comes from having many options, but often power comes from demonstrating that you are anchored, that your standards are fixed, that your boundaries are real. Because in strategic interactions, uncertainty weakens you, clarity strengthens you. And the moment others realize that your no is final, your cooperation becomes valuable. So now, consider this carefully. Where in your life are you appearing too flexible? Where are you signaling that you will always adapt? Where are you keeping doors open that should be closed? Because in the next part, we will go even deeper. We will explore how credible threats, strategic silence, and calculated unpredictability reshape power dynamics entirely. And once you understand that layer of the game, you will never negotiate the same way again. At first, the idea of limiting yourself sounds absurd. Why would you voluntarily give up freedom in a game built on interests? Because in strategic interactions, flexibility without credibility is weakness. What you say you will do means nothing if the other side believes you might retreat. But when retreat becomes impossible, your words gain weight, and weight is power. Think of the classic military story. A general lands on enemy shores and orders the ships burned. There is no escape, no fallback, no second option. Win or perish. Extreme? Yes, but strategically brilliant, because now everyone, soldiers and enemies alike, understands this is not a bluff. That medieval logic still operates today, in negotiations, in leadership, in personal relationships, in career decisions. Consider a salary negotiation. If you say, "This is the minimum I'll accept," but the other side senses you'll fold under pressure, your words are empty. Now imagine you already hold another offer, or you've publicly declared your standards, or you've made logistical moves that make concession costly. Suddenly, walking backward damages you. Your position becomes real, and reality creates leverage. In personal life, the same principle applies. Someone who sets boundaries and enforces them by withdrawing when they are violated communicates strength. Someone who threatens consequences but never follows through loses authority with every repetition. Commitment devices flip the psychological structure. You remove your own ability to bend. You shift the pressure outward. You signal, "I cannot concede, even if I wanted to." But here is the critical nuance. A commitment only works if it is visible and if it carries cost. If you say you will leave your job but never update your resume, never network, never apply, you weaken yourself. But if you inform your manager of your timeline and quietly begin interviewing elsewhere, you change the dynamic, because now you are moving, and movement is credibility. This is why contracts matter, why public declarations matter, why burning bridges carefully sometimes protects your future. Creating a point of no return can protect you from your own fear-driven concessions. Commitment is not imprisonment. It is strategic architecture. But even deeper than commitment is something even more powerful: signaling. Because not all strategy is spoken. In fact, in high-level interactions, words are often irrelevant. What moves the game are costly signals. And game theory is ruthless about this. Statements are cheap. "I'll change. I deserve better. I'm serious." These phrases are inflated by repetition. But signals, true signals, require sacrifice. Time, effort, money, reputation, risk. Only costly actions are credible. And that is why they work. Let's borrow from biology. The peacock's tail is enormous, heavy, and impractical. It slows him down. It makes him visible. It increases vulnerability. And that is exactly why it is effective. Because it is costly. Only a strong male can survive while carrying such a burden. The cost proves the quality. Now translate that into human dynamics. Anyone can say they are disciplined, but waking up at 5 a.m. for years is costly. Anyone can say they value integrity, but refusing a lucrative deal that violates your principles is costly. Anyone can say they are committed to a relationship, but relocating cities, adjusting schedules, sacrificing comfort, that is costly. Cost signals seriousness. Cheap talk signals insecurity. This is why degrees, certifications, and long-term projects function as signals. They represent invested time. Why entrepreneurs who invest their own capital are taken more seriously. Why leaders who publicly tie their reputation to outcomes are trusted more. Because the signal carries risk, and risk cannot be faked for long. Here is the brutal truth. If you want to change how others treat you, you must stop explaining yourself and start signaling differently. Want respect at work? Stop announcing ambition. Start delivering measurable results. Want healthier relationships? Stop promising boundaries. Enforce them once, calmly. Want to be seen as independent? Make decisions that do not require approval. Because silence plus costly action outweighs endless verbal declarations. Strategic signaling is powerful because it bypasses debate. It reshapes perception, and perception reshapes behavior. But now we arrive at an even deeper layer, because there is something more dangerous than being predictable, and more powerful than commitment: reputation. In repeated games, reputation becomes your shadow. It enters rooms before you do, and once formed, it changes the strategy others choose against you. In the next part, we will explore how reputation functions as accumulated strategic memory, and how to design it intentionally rather than letting others define it for you. Only a strong peacock can afford that tail. It is heavy, it is risky, it attracts predators, and precisely because it is costly, it is credible. The tail is not decoration, it is evidence. In the human world, the principle is identical. You can tell your boss you are committed, or you can take responsibility for a difficult project no one else wants. You can promise your partner you will change, or you can alter routines, sacrifice comfort, and demonstrate consistency over months. Words are cheap. Sacrifice is expensive, and expensive signals are trusted. In negotiations, this is decisive. Anyone can claim competence, but presenting real numbers, documented results, concrete cases, that is costly signaling. It required time, skill, discipline. It cannot be improvised overnight, and that instantly elevates you above those who arrive with polished speeches, but no proof. In relationships, the same rule applies. You do not earn trust by saying you are reliable. You earn it by showing up when it is inconvenient. You do not earn respect by demanding it. You earn it by enforcing boundaries when they are tested. But here is the subtle danger. Do not confuse costly signals with dramatic gestures. True signals do not need to be theatrical. They need to be hard to fake. If anyone can replicate your signal easily, it is not a signal. It is noise. Strategy is communicating what only discipline can sustain. The problem is that most people rely excessively on verbal persuasion. They explain, they justify, they argue, they believe clarity of speech equals power. But in real games, especially competitive ones, reputation is built with evidence, not explanations. If you want to be taken seriously, stop talking, start signaling. Show what you tolerate by what you respond to. Show your value through outcomes, not intentions. Show change through sacrifice, not declarations. And now we reach an even deeper principle. Signaling proves who you are, but bargaining power determines what happens when the other side says no. Because the true strength in any negotiation is not what you demand. It is what you can walk away to. Your alternatives define your leverage. In negotiation theory, this is known as your BATNA, your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. If you have no alternative, you are negotiating from fear. If you have strong alternatives, you negotiate from freedom. The person who can walk away holds the power. This applies everywhere, in career decisions, in romantic relationships, in business partnerships, in friendships. If you stay because you must, you are weak. If you stay because you choose, you are strong. And now we arrive at the most structural error people make. They are not truly losing. They are surviving. They repeat behaviors inherited from conditioning. They avoid confrontation. They accept less than they deserve. They postpone difficult decisions. They confuse tolerance with maturity. They confuse passivity with peace. But there is a fatal distinction. Playing not to lose is not the same as playing to win. Game theory teaches us that excessive caution, chronic hesitation, and emotional neutrality often equal defeat before the first move. The world does not reward neutrality. It rewards positioning, clarity, commitment. People who play to survive remain stuck. They avoid necessary conversations. They remain in draining environments. They accept corrosive dynamics. They exhaust themselves, not from action, but from tolerance. And here is the critical shift. Playing to win does not mean being aggressive. It does not mean manipulation. It does not mean coldness. It means stepping out of automatic mode. It means replacing reaction with calculation. It means observing the structure before moving. It means applying the correct strategy to the correct game. Throughout this journey, you learned, not every interaction is the same type of game. Kindness without strategy becomes weakness. Reciprocity requires consequence. Signals must be costly. Alternatives create power. Predictability invites exploitation. Now the only remaining variable is choice. You can continue playing based on impulse, hope, and conditioning, or you can begin playing based on awareness, structure, and precision. The game will not stop. Life is interaction. Interaction is strategy. The only question is, will you play consciously? Every day, you are already in the game. Some know the rules, some do not. And that difference changes everything. If this perspective shifted something inside you, right, now I play with awareness. Not as a comment, as a declaration. Because that line marks the transition between who you were and who you choose to become. And if you feel this is only the beginning, you are right. Because strategy is not a single insight. It is a way of seeing. And once you see the game, you can never go back to blindness.